Hello and welcome to Cleveland Classic Cinema. Tonight's movie is 1957's Kronos, directed by Kurt Newman.
From the mysterious reaches of infinity, a gigantic astral body hurtles towards the Earth to terrorize and seal the doom of an unprepared mankind.
How can we prevent it?
A job for the Army. They've got the guided missiles, the nuclear warheads. Intercept and destroy it before it strikes.
As if by design, this death-dealing meteor plunges into the depths of the sea. And in its place emerges an awesome monster such as human eyes have never seen. Kronos.
Unless stopped somehow, others will land and suck the Earth dry of all electrical and atomic energy resources.
Now, you're the only one that knows, and you will never tell.
Kronos, a metallic vampire stalking the Earth. Its purpose, to drain it of its energy, every last bit of vitality. Kronos, absorbing all the dynamic strength of this universe to make him so powerful as to withstand any force.
I mentioned this movie several times in past intros, and I can't tell you how pleased I am to finally get a chance to show it. This movie gave me nightmares for weeks after seeing it. Of course, looking at it now, the effects are rather quaint, but you have to remember that both the movie and I were only about 4 or 5 years old when I first saw it, so it was pretty much cutting edge at the time. I'm not sure exactly where my love of monster movies came from. That love eventually grew to encompass nearly all genres of films, but I think the reason monster movies got to me was because they hit me at such a visceral level. I mean, what could be more visceral than having the wits scared out of you? I suppose it was just something I was born with, although if that's the case, I'm the only one in my family to get that particular gene. Actually, my love was pretty evenly split between monster movies and comedies, since being scared and laughing are, pretty much both basic human reactions that you have no matter what age you are. The main difference was that there weren't any monthly magazines called Famous Comedians of Filmland. Famous Monsters of Filmland was pretty much the ticket that got nascent monster movie lovers such as me on board the train to Horror Town. One of the really great things about that magazine was that there was absolutely no discrimination whatsoever when it came to monster movies. It didn't matter where it was made, it didn't matter if it was sci-fi or horror, if it was Mexican or Italian or British or American, if it sucked or if it was a classic. If there was a monster in the movie, it got at the very least a mention. The magazine was written and edited by people who seemed to live, eat, and breathe monsters, and since I was a kid who lived much the same way, it was a match made in heaven. In fact, my first exposure to the work of one of my favorite directors, Joe Dante, was in an article he wrote for FM called Dante's Inferno, which enumerated the worst horror movies he'd ever seen. He carries on that proud tradition today by running commentaries on movie trailers at the website Trailers from Hell. And if you think I know a lot about B-movies, you should hear him. As a matter of fact, my dream evening would be just sitting with Bob Kurtzman, Joe Dante, Bill Warren, Bob Burns, Al Tuskus, and the late Forrest J. Ackerman watching old B-movies and having a great time. Kronos concerns a giant robot sent to Earth to suck up all our energy. I've gone out with several women who have done the same thing to me, so it seems the influences of seeing this movie as a kid has stuck with me a lot longer than I thought it would. Thankfully, unlike most of the other movies I saw as a kid and see again as an adult, this one hasn't aged that badly. There's even a bit of prescience in it, as evidence when the alien-possessed scientist, Dr. Elliot, predicts that if we keep using the resources of our planet at the present rate, we'll be out of energy soon. Now, this is in 1957, mind you. Of course, the film didn't age perfectly. For instance, take the computer SUSY. SUSY is an acronym for Synchro Unifying Sciometric Integration Equitensor. Well, UNIVAC was taken and they couldn't use synchronized holographic intensity transmitter, so I guess SUSY had to do. She's an impressive sight for sure. The image of it in the film is a great glass shot that's very impressive. I should probably explain just what a glass shot is. In the silent era, the glass shot was developed in order to add production value to a film. What they did was take a sheet of plate glass and create a photorealistic painting on the back side of it, set it in a heavy wooden frame, and attach it to a couple of steel girders so it wouldn't vibrate. The camera was then attached to the other end of the girders, and the whole thing was lined up with a live background, set to create a seamless image like so. In this way, actors and such could move around in the bottom half of the frame or wherever the transparent spot was, thereby creating realistic motion in the shot, which added verisimilitude to the image. If it was done well, the audience couldn't tell. Nowadays, of course, everything is done on the computer, so arts such as matte painting and stop animation are all but gone. It's a shame, really. Things do look more realistic with every passing year, but it just seems to me, at least, that a lot of the true magic of filmmaking is gone. Now, before I go on, I have to explain something to the uninitiated. If you were into horror movies as a kid like I was, then you remember the Aurora monster models. There was Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the creature from the Black Lagoon, all the Universal monsters. And the collection also included special ones like the working guillotine that actually cut off the little prisoner's head and other neat stuff. Sometime around the end of the 70s, I believe, model builders and collectors, fed up with the lack of more esoteric model kits, began sculpting and casting models themselves. Since the sculpting, casting, and painting can produce a real mess, the models were usually constructed in garages, hence the name garage kits. Garage kits are, for the most part, usually amazingly detailed, incredibly accurate reproductions of various movie monsters, anime figures, comic book characters, representations of real people, and just about anything else you can think of. They're usually made in runs from as little as 10 to several hundred, depending on the company producing them. There are garage kit sites all over the internet, and the quality of the artistry evident in the kits is really amazing. Just as amazing is the selection of subjects available. Everything from the classic Universal monsters to anime figures, although those are usually, borderline if not completely pornographic. Spaceships from classic movies, cars like the Batmobile and all its incarnations, even life-size airsoft guns that shoot plastic pellets. Just look them up on the net and you'll be amazed at what's out there. Keep in mind, however, that the ones you see were painted professionally, so your mileage may vary. I actually ran across a garage kit of Kronos, and I really want to get it, but I'm having a hard time justifying spending nearly $80 on it. Yeah, garage kits are cool, but they are expensive. I might get one of the Tabanga, though. Jeff Morrow was born on January 13, 1907 in New York City. He studied commercial art at the Pratt Institute in New York before becoming interested in acting, appearing on stage in several Shakespeare plays, acting beside such lights of the theater as Katharine Hepburn, Louise Rainier, and Barbara Lawrence. His first turn before the camera was for the Philco Television Theater, appearing in The Life of Vincent van Gogh. His first movie role was as Paulus in 1953's The Robe. He appeared in 66 movies and TV shows, his last role being that of Mr. Orson in the A Day in Beaumont episode of the 1980s version of The Twilight Zone. He worked as a commercial artist after his semi-retirement from acting. By the way, if you ever get the chance to see that incarnation of The Twilight Zone, grab it. It was excellent, particularly when Harlan Ellison was a story editor. It's available on DVD now, so you can check it out if you can find it. Jeff Morrow died on December 26, 1993 in Canoga Park, California. Barbara Jo Lawrence was born on February 28, 1928 in Carnegie, Oklahoma. After winning the title of Little Miss Hollywood in 1942, she modeled as a teenager, and in 1947 she was stabbed by an unknown assailant while attending a movie. Lawrence appeared in 42 films and television shows during her career. While studying at UCLA, she co-starred in a number of movies for MGM, including 1948's Give My Regards to Broadway and 1949's A Letter to Three Wives. She was cast in 1952's Here Come the Nelsons, a movie version of the popular radio show, which later became TV's Ozzie and Harriet, as well as reprising her stage role of Gertie Cummings in 1955's Oklahoma. She retired from acting in 1962 and moved to Africa for 6 years, writing a book about the experience called Welcome to the Jungle. She currently sells real estate in Beverly Hills, California. Kronos was first slated to be a big-budget production from 20th Century Fox. Spyro Skouras, the head of production at Fox, was a big fan of the story and wanted to give it a 4-star treatment, but last-minute changes caused the project to be shuttled over to Regal Studios, an independent production company that had a distribution deal with Fox. The budget for the film was slashed considerably, but I think they still made a good job of it. Bill Warren pointed out in his absolutely indispensable 4-volume book, Keep Watching the Skies, that after the budget for this movie was slashed, 25 shots were cut from the script. No one knows exactly what those pages contain, but Warren posits that there may have been more scenes of Kronos attacking energy sources. The design of the robot is simple yet scary, as is its habit of just stepping on or destroying anything in its way. For all its simplicity of design, there's just enough otherworldliness about it to give you the creeps. I especially enjoy the scene where the scientists, using a helicopter, land on the robot when it first appears to check out what it is, and it starts up while they're still on top of it. That scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. They're up there looking down into their head where you can see all of this weird alien machinery, and all of a sudden you hear the thing start to power up and those antennae on the top begin to turn. Woo! Great stuff. There's another shot where you see one of the piston-like legs come down and smoosh a bunch of people who apparently learned survival techniques from the soldiers in A Creeping Terror, when in danger, bunched together. The shot of them getting stepped on gave me plenty of nightmares, and even though my adult eyes can see it was just a forced perspective shot, it's still pretty effective. I've had a fair number of viewers request this movie, and I'm glad to say we managed to secure a widescreen copy of the film for the show. So right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy Kronos, right here on Cleveland Classic Cinema.